we're exploring a deeply fascinating, almost cinematic concept of human behavior and power dynamics: strategic absence. I want you to really picture a grand historic throne room in your mind for a second. You know, often the absolute true power in that room doesn't emanate from the loudest voice or the most crowded corner. It actually emanates from the empty royal seat. Think about it. The most valuable things on this planet, whether it's gold, diamonds, or clean water in a desert, they derive their immense power not from being everywhere, but from being incredibly scarce. So today we're going to look at the psychology of why disappearing makes you powerful, and exactly how mastering the shadows can completely transform your personal value. Okay, let's dive into this paradox, because we're faced with a pretty stark contrast here. From the literal moment we get our first smartphone, society conditions us to stay constantly connected, right? We're told to instantly to always be available, and to essentially leave our digital doors wide open 24/7. But, well, there's a brutal truth here that we need to talk about. The fundamental laws of power and value dictate that scarcity equals power, period. When you're always available, you aren't actually being perceived as nice or accommodating. The harsh reality is that you're becoming cheap. You are literally diluting your own worth by just flooding the market with your presence. So ask yourself this: what actually happens to your value when you never leave? Think about your own social circle for a moment. We all know that one person who is, the hyper-available pleaser. They answer every single phone call on the very first ring. They show up to absolutely every party. They text back within 3 seconds every single time. They aggressively hook their ego onto being the one who's always there. But what really happens to their perceived value? It violently plummets. They think they're building unbreakable bonds, but human psychology actually processes their constant presence very, very differently. And this brings us to a specific psychological phenomenon known as the curse of familiarity. This takes us straight into the dark psychology of human behavior. See, there's a fundamental, unwritten law that familiarity breeds contempt. It's harsh, but it's true. The more people see you, the more they talk to you, and the more they know your every single move, well, the less power and influence you hold over them. Your constant presence simply becomes a taken-for-granted routine. It becomes kind of like the air they breathe. Necessary, sure, but entirely taken for granted simply because they know you aren't going anywhere. So the crucial point is that by being hyper-available, you're subconsciously feeding everyone else's ego while completely draining your own mystery. You become totally predictable. Actually, scratch that. You become an open book. And remember, a predictable mind is a controlled mind. By instantly replying and always showing up, you essentially hand over the blueprint of your behavior to others. You allow them to effortlessly map your reactions, anticipate your moves, and ultimately control the dynamic of the relationship without them even realizing they're doing it. To reclaim that power, you really have to execute a strategic pivot, which brings us to the psychological vacuum. If you're already established in a group or a relationship, stepping back from the spotlight creates this immediate, intense void. When you suddenly withdraw your constant presence, you absolutely force others into a state of curiosity. They just have to wonder about your whereabouts. You know the saying, nature abhors a vacuum. Well, the human mind is no different. When you stop filling all the space in their lives with your presence, their minds rush in to fill that empty space with thoughts of you. Now, this isn't just some modern social media theory. This is a deeply established philosophy. In his seminal book, The 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene lays it out so simply. He says, use absence to increase respect and honor. Greene confirms that deliberate withdrawal commands immediate authority. It's a total paradigm shift. You're no longer demanding attention by waving your hands in a crowded room. You are commanding respect by stepping out of the room entirely. And this brilliantly illustrates the formalized strategy we're talking about today: calculated absence. Now, this is a strategic act. It happens when you suddenly stop posting every single tiny detail of your life online, when you suddenly stop giving those instant, predictable replies. You create an intense void that others desperately try to fill. They start asking questions, right? Like, where are you? What are you doing? Why are you looking for their validation anymore? Which brings us to a deeply profound rule of human interaction. Whoever controls the thoughts of others controls the dynamic. By stepping back, you essentially force people to obsess over your absence. Remember our comparison to gold and diamonds at the beginning of this explainer? Human beings are just hardwired to naturally fixate on whatever is rare and hard to reach. So, by artificially introducing scarcity into your personal availability, you instantly elevate your status from a common commodity to a rare, highly valued asset. Let's move to and see how this builds into practical execution. We call this the architecture of absence. Now, it is incredibly important to frame this correctly. Strategic absence is absolutely not about playing childish, petty mind games. It isn't about ghosting people out of spite or anger. That's just weak behavior. What we're talking about here is a calculated upgrade of your personal value. It's a deliberate restructuring of exactly how you allow the world to access you. Directly from our source material, here are the 3 tangible rules to really execute this architecture. Step 1. Stop oversharing. Just keep your plans, your goals, and your daily routines in the dark. Step 2. Control your response time. Stop treating every single phone notification like it's some absolute emergency. If you're working on your craft, your phone literally shouldn't even exist to you. Let people wait. It teaches them that your time is an expensive asset. And step 3. Master the art of saying no. If an invitation doesn't elevate your mind, your wealth, or your peace, gracefully decline it. Let them see your results, never your process. This is so key. Your energy is a premium currency. It's definitely not meant to be spent freely on broadcasting your every move to an audience that simply hasn't earned it. No, it's meant exclusively for building your value in absolute silence. When you work in the dark and only reveal the final masterpiece, it creates this incredible aura of effortless power. As we synthesize all of this, consider the contrast. The weak are desperate to be noticed. They're constantly seeking cheap distractions, spending their premium energy on low-value interactions just to feel seen by anybody. But the powerful are busy being remembered. They rigorously protect their inner circle. They embody the quiet confidence of the lone leader who is perfectly comfortable operating in the shadows. Because true power, it doesn't need a spotlight to know it exists. So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you ready to step into the shadows? It's really time to evaluate your own habits. Are you bleeding your value by being hyper-available to everyone? Or are you ready to reclaim your power through the absolute mastery of absence? Step out of the exhausting spotlight, build yourself in absolute silence, and just let them wonder. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Protect your circle, master your mind, and I'll see you next time.